Greetings and welcome to yet another installment of the 1648 mod for Medieval 2 Total War, a mod that depicts the 30 Years' War in Europe that we are right now analyzing the units here on the channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome and enjoy the content. You will have a very great time if you are a history buff and the history of warfare is part of your interest, wargaming and total war. If you are part of the family, welcome back, Victus here. So without further ado, we're going to continue. This is artillery and cavalry for the standard common units. Let's go ahead and check them out. The first unit that we are going to check here is a cavalry unit that is denominated the General Escort here in the mod. In here we have an ensign, that is the guy that is going to be in charge of holding the flag of the country, and over here we can see a cuirasser. The cuirass here has the tassets, some of them have tassets, and eventually we can note that in this leg these guys do not have a tasset, but in the other one they have. It's pretty interesting to note that, in fact, some of them have burgonets with plumes, the plumes that you can see here, and in the majority of these escorts are red and white, possibly goose plumes. Over here we have another instance in which we see a hat was actually very common on the era. These guys have a cuirass that protects the back and the breast. They have their typical boots of the time, and if you were of the nobility, you were able to buy these boots. These guys as well have something that we can see here are gauntlets. Gauntlets were used to protect the soldiers in this time period because of the lances and pikes. Another important thing that we can see with this model is that it has on the burgonet, it has this protection for the nose, something that was as well part of the apparel. Over here we can see that he holds a sword, even though it's not a straight sword, is a curved saber. As well, we can go here and we can see that this is the actual captain of the regiment, and he has spurs, basically something that is going to make him different from the other models. He's using a helmet that we talked about in previous videos that is called a morrion, a Spanish morrion. There were Spanish morrions and there were as well German morrions. This is because of the Habsburg connection that was in between Spain and Germany. Now let's move on into this other unit that we are seeing here. Here in game, this unit is called the Regiment of Piccolomini. Piccolomini was a condottiero, a mercenary captain that was very famous on the 30 Years' War. In this instance we can see a different unit which we are going to talk about right now. Over here we see a guy with a hat with a wide brim, which was part of the fashion of the era. We can see as well that has the same shoes that were present with the pike units that we already talked about on the other videos. Over here we can see that this guy does not have gauntlets and he has a pistol on his hand. These guys as well, they have something that resembles a burgonet, but it's more a low-com burgonet or possibly a German burgonet, as you can see here. Now let's go to the back and let's find out what else do we have here. Over here we can see the Cuirassers, a very heavy cavalry of the time. This guy has an iron plate armor. They have pistols as well. Their actual role on the battle was to charge, and before charging to present fire to the enemy and then going back, reload the pistol and repeat. These guys as well have boots and have full plate and a cutlass that was very usual in this time period. Of course, some of these guys have the actual helmet covering their face and the others have the visor held upwards. In the other hand, we have the black cuirassers that were actually raiders. This is a black plate armor that was coated black. The armor is not going to rust with this black coat. The thing is that they have the same armor and they use as well tassets, tall boots, pistols, and back and front breastplate, and as well burgonets with gauntlets. This was more likely a German raider. Now over here we see the mortars. This was an artillery piece that was used to destroy walls. In this time period there was the so-called Italian trace. The Italian trace was a very robust bastion or fortification that the armies have to use artillery to destroy the walls. These are the mortars that were used in this time period to destroy the fortifications. Back here we can see what it is called the leather cannon, but this was a more advanced weapon or a more modern weapon. Before talking about the leather cannon, we're going to talk about the demi-culverin. Over here we have the huge demi-culverin, and the demi-culverin was called the cartonen. The demi-culverin had this huge ball that was 60-pound cannonball that was used in this machinery. This was an 8,000-pound weapon. It is said that if you want to push this thing into the battlefield, you would have to use a force of 20 oxen or 20 horses. Over here we have the leather cannon. The leather cannon was an invention of the Swedes and was a more light artillery piece that was used more likely to attack personnel. This was anti-personnel weapon and possibly the first anti-personnel weapon ever created. The balls, the cannon balls, as you can see here, were smaller. The leather cannon was lighter and two people were able to push the actual thing. And the reason to create these was to get more mobility on the battlefield. This instance of artillery was mostly used in the Battle of Lutzen by the Swedes. If we want to talk about what is going to be more realistic here in the mod, perhaps you can put 20 or 70 horses, that is the amount of horses that you get with the escort, and that would be a more realistic way of pulling the actual weapon. So if you want to create this illusion of holding the weapon, the heavy weapon of 8,000 pounds, this could be your option, and then only if you have the escort you would be good to push that more realistically. If not, to see 3 guys pushing this thing of 8,000 pounds is, in my opinion, very, very unrealistic. This is the artillery and cavalry for the 1648 mod. This was Victus. See you in the next one.